friends. Welcome to Body Language and Travel Show. Today's special guest is Dr. Claire Beckett McInroy, and she is an ICF MCC registered mentor coach, systemic coach, and trainer, executive team coach. But before we get started with questions and trying to find the systemic codes about what it is actually after all systemic codes, how systemic can help and support trust between employer and employee, and more things. I would love to share a bit of our story. And the story is that we met in December 2020 in a 2020 mega symposium, and she was my coach. I was hustling at that period, to be honest. I was working about myself, awareness to self-investigate and explore more deeper of myself. And and Claire, with her own systemic coach, helped me just open, let's say, a door here in my mind in order to see more clearly and to have another view and approach of my own thinking and how to reflect on my own experience. Dr. Claire Beckett McInroy, thank you so much for this.
It's a pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me to chat and be with you today.
Thank you so much. But before we start and ask you these questions about the definition and how and where systemic coaching is focusing, I think it's a nice time to play, to be playful. Let's be playful.
Why not?
I will put it a little bit closer to the lens of our camera because I would like to ask our viewers, how does a foggy weather make them? Do they turn their lights on? I had to drive through it one time. I felt fortunate that no mass pineapple occurred. So all, take the ownership of your own journey. What a beautiful, amazing, imagine me card, full of inspiration. I got it all 73 here with me in Thessaloniki, Greece, as a coach that I am. I need them. And this is a key source for information, a lot of information. It is, you can gain trust also and easily to start any conversation with any corporate business meeting. We're going to discuss also about this because Dr. Claire Beckett is created by her own imagination and her creativity. In parallel with the definition of systemic coaching and where focuses, I would like to hear from you about all these magic lenses.
Sure. So I think one of the biggest awakenings for me was being able to partner with coaches and teams and boards to allow them to develop a systemic lens. And I followed the work of Professor Peter Hawkins, David Clutterbuck, who talks about complex adaptivity as well, and also Barry Oshry, many others. And what really anchored this concept into me was because many times adults as human beings make things up. And we can live our lives, whether it's in organizations or families, around assumptions as opposed to facts, you know. And then there's things happen in organizations where it's their fault or it's the manager, and that isn't working together in synergy systemically. In comparison, if someone's being coached, and I say, for example, Roxani, what do you need to be coached on today to serve your clients? Or what do you need to be coached on around what your clients need from you? Can you see how that focus is on the outside? So we work to understand all the different stakeholders, be they internal, such as the finance department, procurement, regulators, and external, the customers, the suppliers, the governments, and beyond. And when we coach the person and not the issue, we're really coaching everything to do with that human being, as well as all the systems that they are in, where they're living and working. So an outside in focus, and even future back. What's needed for the future that we can address today in terms of skills, knowledge, behaviours, and so forth. So that's just a little taste of why a systemic focus is so important.
It is important. It is for me actually, because from this a little bit of knowledge that you are so graceful to share with people. And thank you that I was a part of this. Helped me to see where I am and where I'm studying exactly, to see all the systems that I'm studying, and where I want to have more, let's say, a precise and more exact goal to target to the point. Also helped me to be accurate enough to my, let's do some playfulness, to my ladder goal. So it's like I ascend, I'm going up to this ladder, and it's really so simple. Just you look up, and you have your target goal. I like it a lot. Yes, it helps me to be more precise and accurate. Me personally.
And you know, I love the way you use the cards there as a stimulus, and to connect with the cards as a metaphor, a ladder and a goal. It's amazing how much just comes from even drawing a card randomly. You know, what's my intention for the day, and then seeing what comes from that. Another thing you can do is imagine you are that metaphor. So start with, I am the ladder that, or which, or what. So when you are the metaphor, it's a Gestalt technique of just bringing even more awareness. It's interesting.
Yes, doctor. Yes, I like it. I will do it. Thank you so much for this precious advice. Yes, I will do for sure, to my coaches, to me, myself first, personally, and then to other people. Definitely. So we make this beautiful introduction. Okay, the time is not so, because we need days in order to analyze systemic coaching. But let's now help our viewers to see, because working remote, it's out in our reality, in our system, how systemic coaching can help, and help also employees and employers at the same time, because they are having challenges to all this remote situation, how systemic lenses come here to help and support the workplace.
So one way to think about it is, quite often, you know, at the extreme, the leaders at the top of organizations, the ones at the top, maybe waking up in the night worrying about the, you know, the work and the team and the organization and the clients. And the ones at the bottom feel like that pressure is pushed down onto them. It's actually reflected onto them, and they say they need, they want, and the middle ones are trying to orchestrate and do this from both angles. And actually, if we step back and look at the whole picture, they're working in isolation instead of being able to understand things from the different perspectives, and even the perspective of the customer. So by increased effective communication and really trying to tap into the needs of other stakeholders in the system, that way we can work in partnerships and serve the whole system. And what happens is we don't have this team and this team, 50%, 50%, and they come together and it's 100%. It's actually so much more. So when, for example, we get blockages, such as the procurement process, and people who are working through the process of how to close a particular deal with a contractor, like, oh, the procurement department, oh, the finance department, you know, and it's like blame over there. If actually they lean in and together they can work out even smoother, more effective processes, that isn't 50-50. It's just so much more. It's 100 plus. It's win-win-win for everyone in the system. So that's just one example of why being able to set wide-angled empathy, being able to empathize from many different perspectives can actually support everyone, individuals, teams, the organization, and beyond as well.
Of course. So I think that you covered also my next question, because I think this is the same methodology that you are using when we are having disagreement, strongly disagreement between departments. This is the same approach, this angle approach, the systemic approach that you are using also, or maybe if it is a disagreement, a strong disagreement between departments, you're using also another methodology.
Yeah, so what can happen there is people can become entrenched. Entrenched as in, it's a horrible metaphor. You know, the First World War, and people were in the trenches and were scared to look over even in case basically they get shot. And what happens is people only see things from where they are and their perspective when we use the analogy in an organization. So if we have a disagreement and I'm entrenched in I'm right and you're entrenched in you're right, we won't get anywhere. And so to build the bridge between, obviously it needs deeper understanding. And it also needs us both to tap into the knowledge of the system. Relational systems intelligence uses the intelligence of the system to move things forward. And the way the world is now, with just the last year alone, where we've got quite often more complexity, more pressure, less time, less money, and sometimes less resources, as other resources as well. With all of that, we've got to solve more complex problems and work iteratively, step by step, because the emerging future, what's happening there, where we're just coming towards it, is so much closer, in my view, than it used to be. So by tapping into the knowledge of the system, we come up with even better solutions, generatively, working together.
I like it a lot because it helps me now. I'm going to put in the conversation mentally Brené Brown, because I know that we both love and have respect. From my point, as a TEDx coach, I highly ranking Brené Brown's talk in a very high ranking. And I use her own words that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation and the birthplace of creativity. And since you talked already about the systems intelligence and the corporate intelligence, then you can easily give birth through systemic lenses to innovation and creativity, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I love the work of Brené Brown. She's, you know, amazing. And what's great is it's all substantiated by research evidence.
Yes.
Absolutely. And one of the quotes of hers that just really sticks with me is, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So the clearer and cleaner and more succinct our messages are, the kinder that is for others.
For the service, for the system.
Absolutely.
Service the system. I like it. I didn't. I have. It's the first time that I hear this. To be honest, the clearer, the kinder. Yes, to be clear, to be sincere to the system. It's also like you are keeping your authenticity also at the same time. You are keeping your own self. You're not, let's say, absorbed from the system. You're still remaining your personality, but it's like you adapt in the system. How it is about adaptability, how it is about the personality, the uniqueness, the personality uniqueness, and adjust in the system, in the workplace. It's something.
Yeah, so for me, vulnerability is a fabulous leadership competence. It needs to be there in our leadership bag, our toolbox. And with vulnerability is, we've mentioned compassion and also authenticity. So a leader who's vulnerable, sharing, I do not know the answers. Let's work together to solve these complex issues, as opposed to hiding at the top and sucking up the power and worrying on their own. That's unhealthy. It's bad for their friends and family because it will ripple out into their systems and home life. And so in this way, by being vulnerable, as you quite rightly mentioned, others say, hey, it's okay. The person who leads this organization is so authentic that they admit sometimes they've made a mistake. They don't know the answer. And that can increase psychological safety. It means around here in our system, it's okay to try and make mistakes and learn together. And the important thing, taking that learning and using that in future situations. I call it, like a catapult, catapult that learning forward into the future, because there's no point in us having the experience and missing the meaning and not using it in the future.
Of course, I like it a lot because it's so, in this way you create a safe environment, so the employer and the employee, both of them, they are feeling safe in the system. They create this safety, so it's good for both of them. I like it. And about the future, I like it because then you create, of course, innovation with the new knowledge that it came like the wine, how with that is slowly it's coming. I don't know, you know what I mean? When the creation of the wine, that
yes,
comes
yeah,
all this
maturity. Yeah,
so it's
and
like that.
Yeah, and all of that fits with what you said about innovation. If we've not got space and time and support, and if we've not got in our system, it's okay to experiment, then we will not have innovation.
We need to experiment. I totally agree with you.
So just one more thing. So as well as coaching teams and executives, it's important as well for us to realize that many people say systemic team coaching. Actually, if it's systemic, then the approach of being systemic is across the whole organization. So when we're coaching senior leaders, we coach systemically as well, so they can hear the voices in the system from the different perspectives. So one thing I do as well is train coaches in ICF, International Coach Federation programs. And right from the get-go, from the first hour of their training, we use a systemic way of coaching, all the way up to systemic team coaching after the initial competencies have been developed and practiced. And then we've also created programs called Imagine Me Milestones. So it's around the cards that you have, and we do sessions on pictures and metaphors. We do them with the Coach Me model. We also use the random words that, yeah, that's one of my favorite. The random words as well. That
yes. Could you please
you
tell
can,
me a little bit more about the random words so you are giving to a leader or to an employee this random to express himself?
sure. So the way the random words are, many different ways we can use them. Just choosing the random words randomly, or actually looking at a card with the words and considering in terms of this result that we want to gain, or in terms of this problem that we've got to fix, what is the relationship of these words? So let me think of an example. So I'm developing a new program at the moment, which is called, what did we call it? It's called Master Mixology. So it's actually combining the route to Master Certified Coach with ICF and Master Practitioner with EMCC. And I love the reflective approach that EMCC use, reflecting and improving on practice and adding to the body of knowledge in the field of coaching, and also using the coaching competencies and demonstrating them with ICF at a masterful level. So this master mixology uses both approaches so that coaches at professional level can move towards master level. So in terms of that, we only got it out on social media on Thursday, and we've got quite a lot of it in interest. And what I need to work on is making the message of that program really clear. If you just want mentor coaching on your recordings, this program does more than that. And there needs to be a real clear value proposition. So in terms of getting that message out, let's say that's the result I want to achieve, a clear message. With this random card here, we've got keep, experience, borrow. So just chosen randomly. In terms of keep, I want to keep the quality of both approaches to Master Certified Coach credentialing front and center in the program and combine them both. In terms of the experience, I want to share my experiences because I've done both routes. I'm Master Practitioner and Master Certified Coach, to share the experiences and to share that together. As a coach, we develop in who we're being, not just what we're doing. And of course, systemically, to bring that back in, Roxani, it impacts the work we're doing with clients. And then, so I want them to leave the program with a bigger experience than just mentor coaching, coaching on their coaching competencies. And then the last one was, the last word there was borrow. So in terms of that goal of a clear value proposition, I want to borrow other master practitioners and master certified coaches' time so that this program isn't just me delivering. We get some of the best from around the world who can also come in and share their experiences. So what I've tried to demonstrate there, and it was totally random and not planned and off the top of my head, there's the result I want and need for the sake of the clients. Random card, see how I use the words just to come up with, and you probably saw me look up here, just to come up with more thought around that value proposition.
Yes, and it's also about this thought, because it's like you make a challenge for this person at this time, thought about your problem, because maybe some people, they postpone the whole situation of thinking and the whole process, because with this random card, because you can pick any card of yours, and the point here is not the words. The point here is to start motivating and start thinking the whole process, to thinking and to put everything in a sentence, and to go, to say, to listen to yourself speaking about this, that I'm going to do this, I'm thinking about this. So you put the whole brain in a thinking process that I'm in a, like you have a precise concept, a precise thought. So now I'll go forward because you have already spoken. It's like you give a promise to yourself. It's very, very strong, very powerful what you are doing with this. It seems simple, but it's not simple after all. It's more, it's very worthy to use these cards, and I love them. And I didn't know this way of using this randomly. Yes, it's very powerful.
The other thing you can do as well is one of the random word cards and one of the picture cards, and you put them up together. What's resonant? What's similar? What am I experiencing when I see the card, and what's my emotional reaction to those words? What's different? Which word doesn't fit? And what's that about in terms of the result for the session? All sorts of ways we can play with them.
Yes,
so some of the things I'm doing at the moment are this master mixology program and creating the awareness around that. We're moving into the second delivery of the Imagine Me workshops, which is I delivered the second to last one this morning with the first cohort, and it's different every time. And the way that program goes is, if people attend all the milestones, by the fifth milestone, they actually experience delivering their unique way of using the cards with their clients. And therefore the whole cohort, the whole batch, learn together, not only on how to deliver and work with them, but also they learn different ways of using them that may not have even been thought of before. So that's really good fun.
About how it became for you as a child to decide to say that I'm going to be to work with people and coach people. Is there in your young age how it was your personality as a young child? If you would love to share a little bit about this.
So it's interesting, really. I've always tapped into imagination, creativity. I remember I was about, I think, 11, and I had a poem published in the newspaper, and then also always into drama and music and, you know, art, always, thankfully, from parents, you know, taking us to museums and other places to expand our knowledge. And so the creativity bit was really interesting because actually I'm dyslexic. So I left school with very few qualifications because it wasn't recognized. And it was only when, with a struggle, when I actually got to university, ironically, to train to be a teacher, that it was realized that I was dyslexic. So it's no wonder, it's, you know, it's the prefrontal cortex on the right side of the brain, not good, bad, right or wrong, but working so much. And the left, that, you know, how to spell was something that I found extremely difficult. And so one thing I did do when I was young, I also, you know, brownies and guides and all those things. And I was the one who had the most badges. I had almost every single badge down my arm. It was like, here we go, sewing another one up. Just because I've always loved learning and experiencing different things. And then I went on to be a young leader with the brownies, so supporting the leaders of the pack. And that's what got me into thinking about teaching. So then I initially taught children with learning difficulties and behavioural problems in London. And then I moved to Bahrain and started also moving into what was called career guidance, university applications guidance counsellor. And that work got me into coaching. And it was about 12 years ago when I trained with CTI Coach Training Institute in Dubai, flying backwards and forwards to Bahrain, where we lived at the time. And then the experience of that took me on to choosing to do master's, PhD, and working across the region, which also, you know, fed my curiosity and interest in learning, because there's so many cultures within cultures. So in a way, I think my childhood curiosity, love of learning and creativity are the bits of my job that I totally love now as well.
Beautiful. I like this journey and the story that you are sharing about how slowly, step by step, you are now, right now, in front of us, and you are creating all this big institution and organization of yours. And it's good also for the young people, how motivated for the young people that now they are giving examinations, other of them, they are teenagers, to see and to look inside their heart what it's the things that they love to do in order to follow their heart, and of course to try and study for what they want, as you wanted in the beginning to be a teacher, but later on you are still a teacher, you are teaching us. you have it, you got this privilege, you're teaching a lot of people.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I like still delivering coach training, because it's my past life happening now as well, in terms of the teaching element, but also, you know, coaching teams and boards. There's something about more people in the room and more impact. So that resonates with me as well.
Yes, it's beautiful. I can understand from the tonality of your voice. It's so warm. I can feel it that even if we are so far away, now we are broadcasting. I'm from Thessaloniki and we are from Doha. Now broadcasting connected from Doha.
And it's a small world.
It's a small world. Yes, it's so beautiful that we're connected right now. And so any other project, just to hear you a little bit before we say a warm goodbye, just another project that you're working apart this beautiful that you are having right now, maybe something else?
What are the projects? A book. I forgot about, how could I forget about that one? Co-creating a book on reflective practice. So this is why reflect, how to reflect, samples of people's reflections, and also space to have a go, whether it's drawing or writing reflections. And it's a heavy book in terms of at least, you know, 6 pages of references at the end. And yet we want it in a style that's really accessible, where you can even open it and just have a go at that little activity. And so we've got in there David Clutterbuck and Nancy Klein and lots of other big names of some of the top coaches in the world who've contributed to the book with their stories on a reflection, or why reflect, or ways to reflect. And so that brings the book to life. And this should be out within the next month. It's been polished. Yeah, and we'll do complimentary workshops around that as well. And it's for leaders and therapists and teachers and, you know, of course, coaches and supervisors. And it's accessible to anyone, because I firmly believe that by reflecting on our practice in the moment, right there in that second, and also reflecting afterwards. I've just seen this card, it's just jumped to mind.
After this, I love.
We all get even more fruit.
Yes, we all get even more fruit, and I will keep this for the end, because we all owe to ourselves to get more fruits and to follow our heart and our mind and our talents. And Dr. Clare Beckett McInroy, thank you so much. It was an honor.
And thank you.